You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. It's the first Friday of the month, and that means it's time for our favorite and longest-running literary segment on the station, What to Read with McNally Robinson Booksellers. Joined, as always, by Chris Hall, we welcome a special guest to the studio. Accompanying Chris is Kathleen Friesen, one of McNally's children's books buyers. Real tongue twister of a title. Welcome to you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Simon. Nice to be here.
Chris, it's great to see you. Kathleen, it's great to have you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Now, I want to begin by chatting a little bit about what you're going to present. But first, with kids hopefully settled into their back-to-school routines and the holidays just around the corner, thought it might be a good opportunity to chat children's books for any of the younger readers who might be listening. Kathleen, can we first talk a little bit about yourself and your interest in children's books? Because we've heard plenty about Chris and his bookseller of the world aspirations. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I grew up surrounded by books. My mom was a teacher librarian, so I've always had kids' books around. I just love them still, too, as an adult, the art and the fun that's involved in kids' books. So now in my role at McNally Robinson, I get to buy the books and to decide which books we get to be excited about and bring to homes around the city. So I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've sort of hit the nail on the head. I mean, I, too, grew up surrounded by books, and it's one of those that you keep coming back to. Children's books, I mean, there's that special area allotted to young readers at McNally in Grant Park, that magical place up the twirly stairs, and I still love going up there and just kind of being surrounded by those books and just the experience, right?
It's still so exciting, honestly, getting to go up there and just seeing the excitements on kids' faces, and when they walk in and see the stairs, if they haven't been there before, they're always just a sense of wonder. So it's so much fun.
So, of course, there's a lot to choose from, but you picked out two special titles for us this month. What's your first pick?
Yes. So first, I'm going to talk a picture book that we're very excited for. This is called The Big Cheese. It's one of our favorite picture book teams, so written by Jory John and illustrated by Pete Oswald. It's the latest in their food group series. So some of the listeners might be familiar with The Bad Seed and The Good Egg, The Smart Cookie. Now we have The Big Cheese, so my favorite food group they've moved into, of course. So our main character in this book is a wheel of cheddar. He has dubbed himself The Big Cheese, so very humble guy. He's used to being the best and winning everything, and that includes their annual cheese-cathlon at the village. But one fateful day, a new cheese arrives in town named Wedge. He appears to be a piece of brie. Very silly book.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's great. So Wedge seems to be the opposite of the big cheese in every way. He's quiet, he's humble, but he also happens to be very good at the cheese-cathlon. So our character, the Big Cheese, kind of has to react to this new reality. He's not actually the best at everything that he tries. Got a lot of new feelings to work through, bit of a bruised ego. Just really fun and silly. Lots of cheese puns in there, lots of interactive elements for kids. So a very fun read aloud for kids and adults alike. And yeah, just a great new addition to the series. It's always a big event when we have a new food group book. So I think kids will be happy with this one.
Yeah, sounds like a Gouda pick. Yeah, right. I mean, there's so many opportunities here. I mean, I think if listeners who are just kind of tuning in are kind of catching that sort of synopsis. This one of those books geared towards younger readers, right?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be 4 to 8, but I think all ages could have fun with it for sure. So.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. And I mean. It's also just great looking at the illustrations, right?
It's so fun.
I was looking at just the cover image alone, and I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I mean, judging this one, it looks like it's just a fantastic and delicious read.
Exactly.
You've got another pick for a little bit more senior readers, right?
Yeah, so this one will be a middle grade, so it's about 8 to 12, and it's a graphic novel called The Secret of the Ravens. This is written and illustrated by Joanna Kakeo. And she's actually a Winnipeg author-illustrator. This is going to be her debut graphic novel. So we're very excited to share that with our readers. So it's A Secret of the Ravens, it's called. It's a fantasy adventure, and it's set in the kingdom of Kawumiti. So we have the story of Elliot and Liza. They are twins. We've learned that they've lost their parents, they've lost their home, and they've basically been left to fend for themselves in this kingdom. So one day they begin to notice there's a lot of ravens hanging around with mysterious symbols as well on their feathers. They discover that the ravens can be trapped with a magic spell, and then the ravens will pass on a quest to them. In this book, it's called an unkindness. So a bit of a hint that there's some dark forces at work. They will be rewarded with gold coins if they are able to successfully complete the quest. So they don't know who sent the ravens or why, but they need the gold to survive in the world. So as you might imagine, they start finding themselves in more and more dangerous situations as they take on these quests. So yeah, as the story progresses, we get to learn more about the dark past of the kingdom and its inhabitants. Lots of cool magic sequences. The art is just really beautiful. The author has drawn a lot from her background. She's Filipino-Canadian, so we see a lot of references in the costumes and the architecture as well as the language in the book. There's a really fun spell glossary that explains what each spell means in the Filipino language. And that was just really fun to flip back and forth too. So yeah, we get also just a really great sibling relationship as these two twins kind of explore their world. So we're really excited to see where the story goes and hoping there might be maybe some more books to come in this series.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And it's always special to highlight a local author, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, McNally does this so well. And I mean, graphic novels are just... I mean, they really feel like they're all the rage right now, too. I mean, like, they're just so engaging in so many different ways, and especially when one author can do it all, write and illustrate, that's certainly something to consider, especially since I'm on a bit of a fantasy kick myself right now. So, yeah, one to add to the list. Chris, let's bring you into the conversation here. The Big Cheese, is that the title for you at McNally? No.
Yeah, it's on my business card.
Yeah, I was going to say. Let's dive into your reading list. What's top of that list to begin?
Top is fiction, so a new novel by an author named Naomi Alderman. It's called The Future. She's known for a book a few years ago called The Power, and it was made into a series on one of the streaming channels. I can't remember which one. But this new one is a story of a couple of main characters and set in the not-too-distant future. Martha Eichhorn has escaped a cult founded by her father, and now she works for tech billionaires and they control more and more of the world. Sounds familiar. She meets Lai Zhen, who is an internet-famous survivalist, and they begin an affair. Lai Zhen finds herself suddenly in a mall in Singapore, pursued by an assassin, and suddenly something comes up on her phone telling her what to do, step by step, and how to escape. So some kind of connection between the two. As their lives intertwine further, chain of events set in motion. This leads the world towards destruction, and the tech billionaires arrange to run off to the safety of their safety bunkers. It's a novel. It's really told at a breakneck speed. It really, you have to catch your breath at times. But it's about power, how power corrupts, like so many novels are. But what does that mean when so few people have so much power? It's scary. It's a little bit too believable to be comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds a little on the nose and like a real page turner. Internet survivalist.
I know.
What a fascinating title that is. I mean, it seems like one of those, like you say, that is looking at the future, but one that may not be too far off. We're going to go to the present age for your next pick, a novel on life in the modern day. Is that right?
Absolutely. This one is called The Vulnerables, and it's by Sigrid Nunez, and she's the author of 9 novels. Her last one was called The Friend, and it won the National Book Award, which really brought her name forward for a lot of us. This is a much quieter novel than The Future, much slower paced. It unfolds, as you say, in our present world. There's a solitary female narrator, and she really is asking questions about what it means to be alive now, and how does the present reality, each of our present realities, how does it affect the way we look on our own past? It's dealing with isolation, particularly through the pandemic. So what did that do? But how are we isolated all the time? But also what happens when strangers open their hearts to each other, and how far even small acts of caring can go to ease another's distress. So real statement about how to cope with our present times, the value and comfort offered by small moments and connections. A much different novel than the first one.
It sounds like a really beautiful read.
Yeah, very.
Just how you're describing it.
Contemplative.
Yeah.
I've described novels as when they quiet down the world, and
Yeah,
this one
exactly.
certainly does that.
Yeah. I'm also sensing a little bit of a theme to your picks this month, Chris, because we began in the future. We were just talking about the present, and then now we conclude with a reimagined history of the land called North America. Was that intentional, Chris?
Well, you've questioned me on this before. I often wonder who picks these picks. I think I do, but I have no idea what these themes are.
Well, tell us about this one.
This one is The Memoirs of Miss Chief Eagle Testicle, a true and exact accounting of the history of Turtle Island. It's actually 2 books in one. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2. And this is by Kent Monkman, very famous Canadian painter. And he is working with a longtime collaborator named Giselle Gordon. So the two of them have put this book together. I should say right off the bat, I haven't actually seen these books. I've just heard them described, and what they are promising sounds amazing. So if you're familiar with Kent Monkman's work, you know for decades he has had this recurring character in his paintings, an alter ego of sorts, shape-shifting, time-traveling, elemental being. It's Miss Chief Eagle Testicle. And here we get to hear her story in her own words through the whole history of Turtle Island in a new way that makes you really question how we've gotten where we are. High claims, but I had the opportunity to see an exhibit of a new cycle of his paintings at the Royal Ontario Museum last year. So glad I went. As I walked around it, I was really moved, but I also realized there's a story being told here. And sure enough, this is at least related to that cycle of paintings. Volume 1 covers the period from the creation of the universe to Confederation in Canada, as she learns to live with the arrival of European settlers, and then Volume 2 picks up from there and right through the tragedies of 19th and 20th centuries. Very unique telling of the history of this land.
A very unique telling from a singular painter who so often incorporates narrative into a singular piece, let alone these cycles that you were fortunate enough to see. I was also doing some digging over on the McNally website, and I noticed that Kent Monkman and Giselle Gordon will be in conversation with Nigan Sinclair at the end of the month.
Yes.
That's Tuesday, November 28th. And there are many goings-on at McNally. You've been hosting a few chats yourself. Also noticed that Chris Hadfield is going to be at Grant Park.
Hadfield is coming.
Jan Arden and Rick Mercer. There's Canadian royalty rolling through McNally.
Exactly. Now, some of these events like Mercer and Arden are off-site, and the tickets, in their case, are sold out. So, but Kent Monkman is also going to be at the art gallery. So if you want to come and see that, there are tickets to be sold for that one. And Peter Mansbridge is another
I noticed
name,
as well.
That in December, tickets for that one as well. But on Sunday, I got to meet Brent Butt, who came in with his book. So yeah, there's celebrity sightings at McNally Robinson.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to see or what you're going to find reading-wise. As always, we got more details at classic107.com or head to McNallyRobinson.com. Chris and Kathleen, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon. It was great.